What's going on, everyone? We are back again. This time we are testing out Avar Kriss, which has been a leader that some people have been claiming that they've been getting down super early on, and we're gonna mess around with it by playing with all of the force, or rather use the force cards in the game right now, to try to go ahead and get Avar Kriss down really early. Lots of fun stuff in this deck. Before we dive in, a big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. And also, guys, I got a TCG player link in the description down below if you want to check it out. But first, Avar Kriss. This one, a bunch of people were a little bit confused with what Avar Kriss is actually able to do. So first off, we have an action to give us the force. Pretty straightforward, amazing with a card like Jedi Consular. This just allows you to basically play something for 2 less. It is quite spectacular and really works well by getting down some of our more expensive cards a little bit sooner. Fantastic. But also, we have this epic action. If the number of resources you control plus the number of times you use the force this phase is 9 or more, deploy this leader. So let's say on turn 5, when we have 6 resources, if we use the force 3 times in that turn, we are then able to deploy Avar Kriss. Now, it's very difficult to get the force and use it 3 times in a turn. We have crystal caves to go ahead and generate the force every single time we attack. Realistically, the only way we can do it is by utilizing Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is going to be the key in this deck for the most part. Anytime we play another unique unit, we get to go ahead and use the force, or we can use the force to give them experience token and shield token. The idea here is, let's say we go into turn 5, we've got 6 resources, and we have Luke Skywalker on the battlefield. We start the turn with the force, which is very likely. We've got Jedi Consular on the board. This is kind of a most likely an ideal setup. Well, then we use the force, get to play, let's say, one of our more expensive units, or maybe we just, play Youngling Padawan, and boom, that's one usage of the force. It's completely free. Then we go ahead and use Gunji, or play Gunji in of itself, use the force again on Luke Skywalker. We have 4 more resources. We then get the force with Avar Kriss, and suddenly we can go ahead and play Obi-Wan Kenobi, use the force again. That's another Luke Skywalker trigger. We attack, we can generate the force again, and then maybe we could go to deploy another unique unit, something like that. And that's how we get Avar Kriss down a little bit early. But it is a lot of tricky and moving parts. We have Koth that uses the force when defeated. We have Vernestra that comes down and uses the force. These are the cards that use the force right now for the most part, in terms of units. We also have Impossible Escape. Anytime we use this, we can pay 1 and use the force to exhaust an enemy unit and draw a card. That's another way to use the force. And there's also the Will of the Force. This allows us to bounce something and potentially use the force to make them discard a card at random from their hand. We got some expensive stuff, some filler cards, some ramp with Spark of Hope and Resupply, and we're gonna see what we can do with Avar Kriss. All right, in a game went up against Holdo, not someone I've fought very often. We're gonna go to mulligan this one, hopefully for a little bit more of an exciting hand. This one is still not that fantastic. Very expensive hand with Qui-Gon Jinn and Home 1. Maybe we can get some value out of Impossible Escape. Probably not, though. I mean, we're going to have the force, so we're going to be able to use it. But I think I'm going to resource some of these expensive cards and then hopefully be able to curve out, right? Luke Skywalker, Impossible Escape, +2 drop into Bright Hope. Maybe something can happen there. But I'm not really holding out too much hope. This hand is pretty bad. I was hoping for a little bit more excitement, maybe a little bit more ramp, a little bit more curve out potential, but we will find out. Looks like they've got a Resistance X-Wing. Not bad. That's going to get a pilot probably and be a little bit strong. Let's go ahead and meditate, get ourselves the force. Vernestra was a pretty nice pickup here. It's going to be an immediately ready up unit, and that's going to allow us to generate the force again. Again, it's all about generating the force. Really what we want to see is like Jedi Consular, Luke Skywalker's, is it Luke Skywalker? Yeah, Luke Skywalker. Sorry, the 4-cost version. I was looking at this Luke Skywalker and I was like, huh? We already have Luke on the board, but the 4-cost Heroism Luke. Bright Hope looks pretty good here. I'm gonna resource one of them just because we have 2 expensive ones, which doesn't necessarily bode well for us. Looks like they have Determined Recruit, and that is a very powerful play. I'm actually gonna go ahead and Impossible Escape, use the force, draw a card. And that's going to just exhaust this to prevent an attack in on this turn. And that's also going to allow us to, well, just attack and then play out the Youngling Padawan and then pass. Will of the Force, fantastic draw, to be honest. That's pretty much exactly where we want to be. I think I'm going to keep the Vernestra part 2, or maybe I don't care for it. You know, resupply is probably just a little bit stronger. I'm hoping that they use the Holdo action to just try to get in some damage, but nope, they're just going to go ahead and attack here, which is totally reasonable. Let's go ahead and attack ourselves. And we can bounce this Resistance X-Wing, which is going to be pretty impactful. The question is, do we want to do that, or do we want to, you know, take on whatever else they're going to be playing this turn? Resistance X-Wing, you know, just playing a 3/3 on turn 1 and then dropping a +3/+1 on the board is pretty powerful. Interesting. Tactical heavy bomber, huh? Okay, they're going to they hate that ship. And I think what we'll do is actually bounce the tactical heavy bomber, because you can pump the tactical heavy bomber to crazy degrees, and that can get a little bit scary. We'll use the Force, make them discard at random. We've got Resistance Blue Squadron. We're going to go ahead and meditate. Let's go ahead and attack in for 1, attack in for another 1, and I think we're just racing here. Let's pass. Another Will of the Force is honestly pretty nuts. I do like that card quite a bit. And I mean, we just might be grinding them out, you know, turn after turn after turn. They're going to get Holdo down a lot sooner, though, and that is a little bit of a concern for me. Since we haven't ramped, we kind of played these weaker units. They did get in a ton of damage already just by pumping up their Resistance X-Wing. But we should be okay. We should be okay. Definitely an awkward hand because we can only play one of these cards in this turn. Do I want resupply? I mean, Vernestra's so powerful in this deck, but I don't know if we're actually going down that route. Opponent is thinking about what to resource here. I think I will just go ahead and resupply. Even though we can get to Avar Kriss just a little bit sooner, I don't really want to sit here and risk not interacting and just ramping. It's just a little bit too weak for me. Attack in for 3. They got a tactical heavy bomber they're going to play out. Do I care about it? I don't know. Let's go ahead and attack in. We will use the Force here. Bounce the Resistance X-Wing this time, actually. And then we will meditate. They could pump up their tactical heavy bomber to kind of a crazy degree. But, oh, they're just saying GG. Just saying GG. Okay. Not bad. We had the Bright Hope to prevent a lot of damage. What we could have done is if they're going to pump up the tactical heavy bomber, we drop the Bright Hope in, and then all that damage just gets dropped onto the Bright Hope. So we take 5 indirect damage. Even if they were to, let's say, pump up again with Holdo, and then, you know, do some crazy trick and attack for like 12 with the heavy bomber, we would soak up it with Bright Hope, and then of course take a little bit to our base, and then we probably would have been able to finish out the game afterwards, but it would have been a little bit close. So very, very tricky game here. All right, into our next game. We got to put ourselves a pretty good hand. I'm going to resource these Bright Hopes up against Jabba. Honestly, I'm just going to use the Force here on turn 1. I want to see what my opponent's going to be doing. They could try to pass to get a bounty down on my units, and if they do that, I'm just going to take initiative and hit resupply. You know, resupply, and then we can set up for an ETH Koth, and then if ETH Koth dies, you know, we get to use the Force ramp again. So really, really nice situation for us to be in up against Jabba the Hutt. I did resource the 2 Bright Hopes just in case they decided to, you know, not pass and just play their unit. Then I will go out and play out Luke Skywalker. But if they try to pass here and then try to get a bounty down, yep, which is exactly what they do. We just take initiative and we move on with our life. Obi-Wan Kenobi, nice draw with Luke Skywalker. I think I'm going to get rid of the Will of the Force here. I do like having a ton of units when Luke Skywalker comes down. That's going to mean that we can use the Force multiple times in a turn, as we've spoke about in other games. Luke Skywalker being able to use the Force is going to set up for an Avar Kriss early. We're just going to resupply, and they got Super Laser Technician, which is totally fine. We're just going to claim initiative. And then, ooh, Jedi Consular, huh? I do like Jedi Consular. I do really want to get Jedi Consular down this turn, to be honest. Let's go Obi-Wan, Jedi Consular. We can just go ETH Koth. I think Obi-Wan plus Jedi Consular is going to give us the actual option to deploy Avar Kriss earlier rather than later. Jedi Consular is one of the key parts. We could go use the Force to deploy Luke and then deploy ETH Koth, and that can potentially set us up for a really nice turn here. Okay, they played Hunt of the Haxian Brew without putting a bounty on, which means no shield for them. They're going to undo that, of course. Okay, they're going to go price on your head. They're changing it up here, as per typical. Vernestra, another Luke. Not bad at all. Okay, they can go ahead and actually just deploy. Not even quite sure what I want to do. Let's go ahead and play out Luke Skywalker. We're going to get a... Okay, they're going to put a price on your head. Let's go ahead and drop in... Let's go ahead and use the Force here, actually. I could attack, but I'm kind of hoping they attack here. Okay, let's go ahead and use the Force with Luke. The only thing with this is Jabba can capture the Luke. So I don't think we're actually in a great spot at all here. There is the Jabba's Rancor. Deleting the Hunter the Haxian Brood. They're going to go ahead and probably just yoink our Luke Skywalker, to be honest. And that's what I would do. Yoink the Luke. It's coming. It's coming. I mean, I guess they could take the ETH Koth. It's reasonable as well. Okay, they took the ETH Koth. And they're going to attack. I wonder if they're going to hit the Jedi Consular here. Nope, they're going to hit Luke. That's odd to me. But hey, you know, that works. Home one, not a bad situation to be in at all. What do I want to do here with this? I can use the Force and then try to go for home one this turn, which is possible. Go ahead and use the Force. We'll see if they knock out Jedi Consular here. Jabba the Hutt ramping, getting some crazy stuff going on. Now what they could do, I mean, realistically, oh. Wow, really? I'm a little bit surprised they decided to go this direction. I mean, we could deploy something, get the Force, and then preserve Luke. You know, I think that's what we're going to do here. Even though I could go home one. I guess I could go home one here and get Obi-Wan and then get a Sentinel body. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Home one, grab an Obi-Wan, get a Sentinel body. Still not enough, by the way, to deploy our good old friend Avar Kriss. We're going to claim initiative here. They got Lurking Tie. None of this is really all that scary. Spark of Hope. Okay, let's go ahead and just... I guess we could attack because Jabba's Ringer is going to start picking off our units here. So I think what we'll do is just attack in with Obi-Wan Kenobi, generate the Force. Forlom, huh? Forlom, take out Jedi Consular. That's fine, actually, because then we will just go ahead and attack in with our Luke Skywalker and get some value off that. Frozen Carbonite comes down, which is honestly kind of fine. Let's go with Luke Skywalker here. And then we'll see what my opponent decides to do. Okay, let's go Obi-Wan, use the force for Luke here. Sure, yep. Take out your own units, because that's how Jabba's Rancor works. Let's go ahead and use the force. And now we can knock out Jabba's Rancor with Avar Kriss. Drop in Avar Kriss. We can knock out Jabba's Rancor, grab Eth Koth, and then pass. Okay, not exactly as smooth as we would have liked. Jabba's Rancor really putting a kink in the plans. Okay, Jabba's Rancor comes down. They get to knock out a unit. Sure. I think what we'll do is just play out. Ooh, what do I want to do here? Let's go Vernestra. And I will use the force here to ready up Vernestra. And we can go Vernestra, attack. And then we can go Jedi Consular. We go Eth Koth, use the force, attack into Jabba's Rancor. And there goes Jabba's Rancor. We have the force still. And now, I mean, there's just so many options that we have. All of these are unique units, which means we can really start going to town here. Relentless Pursuit. Vernestra, huh? Let's just go ahead and drop this in. We are not going to pay, but I will resolve the ambush attack. I will go ahead and use the force so I can get a shield token over on Luke. And I mean, our opponent's kind of stalling here in terms of what they're doing, but it doesn't really change a whole lot. Let's go ahead and play the Qui-Gon Jinn. Let's pass. I mean, look at our board. It is getting a little bit crazy a little bit quickly. They're conceding, and that's going to be GG. So a little bit of a crazy game there. Jabba's Rancor, obviously, big problem. Coming down and just kind of smacking our units down so we couldn't get the Avar Kriss down. But honestly, killing off the Jabba's Rancor with an 8-powered leader is pretty incredible. So good stuff there. All right, into the next game. We got ourselves a matchup against Ahsoka Yellow. Let's go resource this blue leader on the home one. Don't mind this hand. We got Gunji into... Oh, okay. Luke Skywalker, or Leia Organa. Gunji looks incredible on this board, by the way. Let's go to resource the blue leader, actually, because I want to get down Jedi Consular this turn. And we're just going to knock out a bunch of units here, I think, with what we've got on the board. Okay, they're going to attack in for 3. That's fine. I mean, they've played a bunch of units, but does that really matter? Ooh, General's Blade actually looks pretty good here. Let's go ahead and I suppose we will just attack the Batch Brothers, get rid of that unit. And I mean, this is kind of crazy. We're just going to pick off all their units and then be left with a pretty nice board. General's Blade on Gunji means that we can deploy Vernestra this turn as well, which is going to be pretty nice. Let's go ahead and knock out that. That's going to mean Vernestra is going to come down this turn, and that means that we can have an immediately readied up Vernestra. And that means that we can knock out the Clone Trooper here. Lots of 1-drops from my opponent, but does that matter? Obi-Wan Kenobi looks like a fantastic draw, by the way. Keller and Beck can come down with the Gunji attack. Just a little note there. Okay, let's go ahead and hit Adi Gallia. Get this guy out of here. We could deploy Keller and Beck this turn. Oh my, what do we want to do here? I mean, realistically, we have so many different options. Let's go with Keller and Beck here, and let's grab... Ooh, interesting. We can grab Vernestra. I mean, we're just going to grab the Youngling Padawan, I suppose. Knock out the Spec Force Soldier. They're going to attack in for 4. We're going to claim initiative. I mean, Keller and Beck could come in slapping here. Ooh, dang. We've got options. Keller and Beck just going to go ahead and knock out the Ahsoka Tano. Qui-Gon Jinn makes it so much more scary for my opponent. Here, let's go ahead, and I think what we're going to do is just take out K2, and they can hit us for 3 here. I suppose I shouldn't have gotten rid of the Marauder in case they have any space units. They've got 4 cause, and they only hit 2 units that actually hit us. Batch Brother, a double surprise strike means that that's pretty horrible. Let's go ahead and drop in the Luke Skywalker. And I suppose let's go ahead and just claim initiative. We're going to have to end the game quickly here, but we can. Ahsoka just rushing us down here. Very, very strong, by the way. There's another K2. K2's great. K2 can cause some problems for us, for sure. Let's go ahead and utilize the Force. Get a shield token on Luke. There comes the Spec Force Soldier. Then let's go ahead and play out. I mean, we just kind of have to avoid the 4 of cause, right? Double K2 plus the 4 of cause could be a little bit scary. We just have to prevent any units, because if they have an attack here, then we are dead, because if they have like a surprise strike or something like that. So really aggressive start from our opponent. We barely were able to survive up till this point. But if they have a 4 cause, they could potentially get there. Really, really sweet. Just flooding the board with so many different units. We almost weren't able to prevent it, and we may not be able to still prevent it, to be honest. Okay, there comes the Ahsoka Tano. They could exhaust the Avar Kriss. That's fine. We can just go ahead and drop in the Qui-Gon Jinn, get an ambush. I should have done that in the reverse order so I could use the Force first, but not that it really matters. They've got, okay, how much damage do we have? We have 13. Yeah, we should have enough here. 6 into base, 5, and then there's the Obi-Wan. So GG to my opponent. Pretty crazy, you know, pretty crazy start for them. They had a really aggressive curve, double K2SO, but we were able to get there. The Vernestra was really critical, actually, getting an immediately ready up unit. And so was the Gunji, just having a 2-5, knocking out all those 2-2s that were on the board. Not that that's going to be an extremely common occurrence, but just something to think about. Really, really cool stuff, but we ended up getting there. All right, into the next game, and pretty exciting here. We've got our opponent doing something that I am excited to see, to be honest. I'm going to resource one of the General's Blades and probably the Spark of Hope. I like my hand, but it is Han Green, which is a little bit scary, right? Han Green going to be a little bit scary, mainly because they could do so many different things next turn. I mean, they could drop literally, they could drop a resource, they'll be up to 4. They could drop a 6-drop this turn. Like, that is very ridiculous, to be honest. I shouldn't have resourced what I just resourced, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Let's go ahead and drop in the General's Blade, and that means they have to use Jedi Consular here, so they have to drop a 5-drop into play, and we're just going to knock out the Obi-Wan here, and we got nothing to play after that, so a little bit of a weaker situation to be in, but I mean, they could still use Jedi Consular here. Wow, okay, they're going to drop in the Jedi Sentinel. That's fine. We're just going to go ahead and keep trading off units. They're just kind of playing Sentinel after Sentinel. They're going to claim initiative. That's also fine. Let's go with, I mean, we have the option to go Luke plus Jedi Consular, so we will do that. Luke, Jedi Consular, pass. Keller and Beck can come down this turn with the Force, so that's going to be amazing. And I mean, they can activate it. Let's see what they grab. They've got an Memphis Nest. They're going to bounce the Luke. Okay. Let's go ahead and play a Keller and Beck then. And let's drop in, I guess we drop in Obi-Wan. And then they're going to have to take initiative again, unless they want to deploy Han Solo this turn. But, I mean, not really that bad for us. Memphis Nest is scary. Don't get me wrong. That is a scary card to see. But let's see what my opponent's going to do. Hotshot Blaster, huh? I mean, they can trade off. I mean, this is just a trade. That seems pretty okay with me. Let's go ahead and what do we have? We could play out Luke. You can play out Jedi Consular. I mean, I think that's what we're going to do. Let's start with Jedi Consular here. Give our Obi-Wan Kenobi Sentinel. They're going to put a resource down. We're going to smack a Jedi Consular here just because this is a scary card. Having this on the board, I mean, 2 extra resources is pretty incredible. And they still have access to, get more force. So that's going to be a little bit scary. They're going to attack, and that means that Han Solo is going to take a little bit of damage. I mean, he's going to play a 7-drop this turn if they have it. Nope, just an Ethkoth. Okay, Ethkoth, not as scary for me. Oh, Shien Flurry. Nice. That was pretty sweet. I didn't even see them use that card as well, but they took out our unit with an immediately readied up unit, so really cool stuff there. We can use the Jedi Consular here, which we will. We're going to play a unit, pay 2, ambush, hit the Han Solo. U-wing reinforcements. Okay, so our opponent's just playing massive units after massive unit, which is really, really awesome. Love to see it. What a cool deck. Okay, just got the Hu Yang and Jedi Sentinel. Sweet. We're going to be able to deploy Avar Kriss this turn because of the Will of the Force. So we're going to be able to bounce it, use the Force, and then... And they have a Jedi Consular. Oh, they're just going to trade off. Okay. Let's bounce the Jedi Sentinel. We'll use the Force, which means Avar Kriss is going to come down. Really, really good stuff there. We're going to deploy Avar Kriss, and then that's going to be able to smack through Hu Yang. Because again, on attack, we're going to be able to get the Force, which means she's going to turn into an 8-powered unit. Double Obi-Wan, not what I wanted to see at all, realistically. This is not at all what I wanted to see. So I'm a little bit worried about what my opponent could have here. That's a Jedi Sentinel. Let's go with Obi-Wan here. Hopefully they actually just attack. I would actually love for them to attack here. Great. Fantastic. We have another Obi-Wan which we can play. Let's go ahead and drop in Obi-Wan. They're going to get the Force back. We're going to play Gunji. I'm just playing units because I'm kind of curious what they're going to play here. I don't necessarily want to attack with my Avar Kriss, so it is an 8-powered attacker. All right, well, now I will just go ahead and kill off their unit and then be left with a 1-power or 1-toughness Avar Kriss, even though that's not something that I necessarily wanted to do. That was a fantastic draw, though. We got ourselves the... Kelleran back coming in, huh? What a great draw for my opponent. Good draw for my opponent. But we can, grab a Blue Leader, Jedi Consular, Gunji. I mean, if I resource something, I guess I could have grabbed Luke from the resource pile. That would have been the play, to resource Luke and then grab Luke. But I did not end up getting that. Let's go home 1. And then we will grab Blue Leader. Oh, sorry. I was thinking we have Keller and Beck. We couldn't grab home 1. Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could. What am I talking about? Yes, grab Luke. I was mixing up a bunch of different things there. All right, let's get in some damage. Get in some more damage. Get in some more damage. Pass. Ooh, Keller and Beck is a great card. We're pretty much in it for the win here. Pretty awesome game back and forth here, to be honest. That was pretty sweet. Love seeing the Han Solo adaptation. Jedi Consular plus Han Solo is so many resources so quickly. Like with Mystic Monastery, this is what I was saying with Mystic Monastery. You get the Force when you need it. And Jedi Consular, if you play it on turn 1, suddenly you get Han turn and you get to play 2 resources cheaper with Jedi Consular. You can play a 6-drop on turn 2. That is incredible. And on turn 3, you can play a 7-drop. That is insane, to be honest. So love to see it. Love the deck. And I'm really excited to see more of things like that. Wow. All right. Here we are up against Anakin. And I don't think I'm going to be playing Jedi Consular on turn 1. Usually up against Anakin, they're going to be able to reach that 4th point of toughness. Instead, I think I'm just going to go ahead and play out our Resource Gunji and Bright Hope. Gunji's also a little bit scary. Oh, never mind. I will just go ahead and play out Jedi Consular now because my opponent played nothing. Great. Like that. I do like that. So this turn, what we could do is actually play out Luke and Vernestra. Ooh, interesting. I think that means is I actually want to go ahead and play out Luke Skywalker, because that's going to be a pretty powerful unit over the long term. And they can't actually knock out Luke Skywalker on the next turn. They can go ahead and knock out Jedi Consular, which is going to be a little bit unfortunate, but that is okay. Ooh, I do like Spark of Hope here. Spark of Hope is actually really quite nice because we can actually deploy Luke and Spark of Hope, which they're probably just going to kill off Jedi Consular immediately. It's a little bit scary to keep that around, you know? All right, let's go ahead and Luke Skywalker, play this as a unit, use the Force. It's going to create a 4/6 shielded, which I do like. Now, they could have a lot of different things on this turn that makes me not want to attack with Luke, but I probably will go Spark of Hope here, almost assuredly. Definitely a stacked hand if we get to the late game here. Luke, this is one of those matchups where if my opponent's not playing a bunch of controlling cards, then it's going to take over the game. We have open fire, huh? Interesting. Let's go ahead and Spark of Hope. We'll put Luke into our resource pile. Pass, Eth Koth, Obi-Wan. Totally reasonable cards. I'm going to keep Caloran Beck, though, and Home 1. So we're going to resource the Eth Koth, or the Obi-Wan, and we're going to drop in Eth Koth. Go ahead and use the shielded aspect here. And they're going to claim initiative. We're going to go ahead and meditate. Not that it really matters. We're going to go and attack their base. Pass. Qui-Gon Jinn was a great draw as well. I mean, we're going to start really chaining into some powerful plays this turn. They're going to put armor, and they can technically discard multiple cards to take off Luke, to take out Luke Skywalker, which they may want to do because it's a little bit scary keeping. Oh man, they have a Fell the Dragon. Okay, Fell the Dragon is pretty good here. Do I want Qui-Gon? I suppose I will just attack in to their base, because what I could do here is actually deploy Qui-Gon and then take out Anakin and put Poe Dameron on the bottom, but we'll see what they have. Remember, drop a non-leader unit, ground unit on the top or bottom of the deck, so they could put it on top, I guess. But okay, they're gonna attack the base. I think that's pretty okay. They're gonna make us discard a card, huh? I'm gonna discard Home 1. Let's go Caloran back, and let's go ahead and grab. Do I want Obi-Wan? I guess I'll just grab Jedi Consular. Nice, another way to use the Force. They can deploy Anakin. That's fine. Again, I'm expecting to Qui-Gon their Anakin. Oh man, they have Force Throw as the last card in their hand. That is devastating. That is devastating. They happen to have the discard a card with Poe Dameron, and they have the Force Throw. That's going to make it real difficult to come back in this game for sure. They're actually taking out that guy. Okay, I'm a little bit surprised about that. But hey, you know, that totally works. Let's see what we want to do here. I think the first thing I'm going to do is just attack into Anakin, use the Force. And this might seem a little bit odd, but the only way we win here is if I really go ham on Avar Kriss and get some value going there. Let's go ahead and meditate, generate the Force again. They can make us discard a card with Poe Dameron, which is fine, because if they do, I think I just discard the General's Blade. Okay, we're going to go ahead and deploy ourselves the Avar Kriss. Wow, they have Rival's Fall. That's going to be GG. So they had pretty much everything in that last turn. That was pretty sweet. The Force Throw was something that we, if we wanted to, what we could, I mean, we couldn't really because we discarded the Home 1. So no, we didn't have any really a way around the Force Throw unless I would have resourced one of the earlier plays far earlier to play around Force Throw. But it's a little bit tricky to do so because really in Anakin, one of the only things that does trigger Force Throw is Anakin himself. I could have passed, which might have been an option, but I guess didn't think about the Force Throw. You know, that was one of the ways we could lose. So I think in that spot, I probably should have just gone for the Poe Dameron attack. But it feels pretty bad to play Qui-Gon and then just trade 1-for-1 with Poe Dameron. I could have also attacked with the Eth Koth into Poe Dameron, and maybe that would have encouraged my opponent to do something else. But nonetheless, well played for my opponent. On to the next one. All right, into the next game, and we got a pretty good hand. I'm going to go for the high upside. This is really risky. And honestly, I would, in general, not recommend anyone do this. especially up against the villainy vigilance cards. But I mean, they're probably just going to go ahead and power the dark side me away. Not that it's actually extremely risky, to be honest, but it is something that probably won't pay off because they're probably, oh, okay, never mind then. We're going to go with General's Blade. I thought they were going to go ahead and power the dark side me, but nope, we're going to go ahead and get our Jedi Consular down, which is really nice. We've got Spark of Hope, which I do like as well. All right, so my opponent has the Fell the Dragon. Sure. I mean, they're playing a control deck. That's what they're going to do, right? Not that we can resource anything this turn. We could have Spark of Hope, but, you know, just getting down the Marauder, I think, is the preferred play here. They can go ahead and attack my Jedi Consular and get rid of that. I'm going to claim initiative. Okay, they've got the Overwhelming Barrage coming in. Most likely is what's going to happen here. Overwhelming Barrage. Who would have expected? It's Overwhelming Barrage. Again, not that it super matters. I think this matchup, I was worried about the, realistically, I was worried about the Vader coming down with ECL. But they have Darth Vader. This is one of those situations where our deck doesn't really function all that well up against what my opponent's doing. They've got just a little bit more power in everything that they do. Let's go home one. We're going to go ahead and get... I suppose we'll grab the Jedi Consular and get a shield token over on Luke. Here comes the ECL. You know, ECL, put a shield token on something, defeat the Luke. The new Vader, by the way, that's what I'm considering, or that's what I'm talking about here. Let's go ahead and knock out Kira. Just go ahead and get rid of that unit. I mean, they could ECL. They could ECL out Vader right now, and the game is like super over. So I don't think we can deploy Avar Kriss into that. Super Laser Blast. Okay, we'll deploy Avar Kriss afterwards then. Yes, they could still have the Vader, but there's not a whole lot that we can do. Like, they're going to deploy Vader eventually, right? That's just kind of what the name of the game is. Okay, they had Power of the Dark Side plus another Vader. They got the stacked hand. You know, that's a pretty good hand for our opponent. They had double Vader and they had the Power of the Dark Side for the Avar Kriss. Really nice situation for them. To be honest, we don't really win out in the late game unless we're drawing something a little bit stronger, and we haven't really picked up that. So kind of just a nightmare across the board, but that kind of just makes sense, especially when we're dealing with, you know, vigilance villainy. It's already a strong situation for them to be in, just because they have so much power in the late game, in the mid game with Darth Vader's, Mauls, Power of the Dark Side, a little bit of extra removal. We have a little bit more setup, and we don't have as big board wipe effects like Overwhelming Barrage and Super Laser Blast. Those are the types of cards that this deck's really missing, you know, a big wipe effect. But really good stuff. And well, we just got Kira Blue, Kira Green. I was expecting to see some new cards, but we just got Kira Green in this game. I'm sure they're playing the new Darth Vader because that's a sweet card. But anyways, let's dive into the next game. Real quick and real smooth, my opponent just dominated us. All right, guys, what did we learn with Avar Kriss? Well, there are some cool things you can do. The Force generation is really nice with things like Jedi Consular and even Luke Skywalker, Eth Koth, Vernestra. All those are really, really strong cards to be playing when you're able to go ahead and trigger the Force reliably with Avar Kriss. I think the biggest thing, though, is doing your game plan and trying to get Avar Kriss down is extremely unlikely in a realm of people actually playing decks. I don't know how to say this, but if you're playing your deck and you're trying to fight up against someone else and you're what we call goldfishing, which is like trying to do all these things and play a unit, get the Force, use the Force, play a unit, use the Force, all that stuff, you're probably going to get disrupted at some point, and it's going to mess up your game plan, which we saw a few times. Doesn't mean that we can't win. Doesn't mean that we can't do incredibly powerful things like Jedi Consular with Caloran Beck, or even like General's Blade on Gunji early on. Not that these are things that you necessarily should be doing or anything like that, but this is just some of the options that we have. I think one of the biggest things that hurts this style of deck, this more mid-rangey style of deck in Cunning Command, is we don't have enough ways to remain parity on the board. If you look at like villainy decks, as I mentioned, they have things like Overwhelming Barrage, Super Laser Blast, little bit more removal. If you're playing Vigilance like Ray, you have things like Takedown, Fell the Dragon, ways to interact more directly, whereas Cutting Command has less. There are a few ways, like you could play Strike True, you could play more Waylays and things like that, but some of those are temporary, and it's just something to consider that it's going to lessen the ability to actually get Avar Kriss down. There were a few games there where you can get her down at 7 resources, but realistically, that was the earliest. We weren't really able to get her down earlier. And again, as I'm saying this, yes, you can play out of aspect cards that use the Force, but in terms of using the Force, this is literally in Cutting Command every single card that uses the Force as of like this recording, like as of the spoilers so far in the set. So we do need a couple more cards that are going to benefit from this. I think Jedi Consular is amazing. We've seen how powerful this card can be. Koth is really good. Vernestra is really good. I think Luke Skywalker can be really good, especially in this deck. But outside of that, I mean, we have so much Force generation. You saw there was almost never a situation where we couldn't get the Force. It's a little bit awkward to have Jedi Consular with Luke Skywalker, though, because you're using the Force to play something for cheaper, and then you can't use the Force to get Luke Skywalker's trigger. But that's just one of the like anti-combos. If we have more cards that use the Force, I think Avar Kriss could be exceptional. Cards like you just play the card and you're getting value, like Vernestra having a 3/4 immediately readied up is really good. Having Koth being able to get a resource, that's really, really good. Fits perfectly with Avar Kriss. These types of cards are what we're really looking for. Unfortunately, we didn't quite get there where we could deploy her 6 resources or 5 resources. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'm sure there's ways, and as I talk about, there are ways theoretically to get units down, but in a real game, it doesn't happen all that often. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all for the next one.